it's a talent-driven business. And when the talent doesn't perform, it doesn't matter how good a coach you are. You're not going to win a lot of games. Simple as that. I don't think anybody thinks in the NFL, at least, that Kevin O'Connell's a bad coach, but he looks bad right now.
Let's get to some of these super chats, Johnny Mac. Him Bison, what's up, brother? Is it really scapegoating if the firing is justified? I assume he's talking about Patullo.
Sure. No, I mean, there's sometimes, but you got to be, it's very difficult to understand if guys are, there's a possibility. And Sean Desai's probably in that category, who was, completely overwhelmed and probably not, didn't deserve to have this position in the first place. And you got to move on from guys like that. More often than not, though, it's scapegoating, I would say, around the NFL as a whole, more often than not, because look, it's a zero-sum business. And, you see it with great coaches who have long shelf lives. They all have bad seasons. They didn't become bad coaches. It's a talent-driven business. And when the talent doesn't perform, it doesn't matter how good a coach you are. You're not going to win a lot of games. Simple as that. I don't think anybody thinks in the NFL, at least, that Kevin O'Connell's a bad coach, but he looks bad right now.
That's a good point. He won how many games last year? 14?
14.
Fair point. Steve Go, what up, Steve? How you doing, brother? Good to have you in here. He says, I am hearing Frank Reich is coming in to help the coaching staff. Do you think he makes a difference?
First of all, I want to know where you're hearing that, Steve. Go shoot. But beyond that, look, Nick and Frank are very close. And so, like, I always joke when the consultants were a big deal and they brought in Marcus Brady and then Vic Fangio in the Super Bowl season, Super Bowl 57 season, late with Vic, very late. But he was always a friend of the program. He would be at training camp, and like in the case of Frank and Nick, they text each other all the time. Like he was a consultant when he was coaching Stanford. He bounces things off Frank all the time. Will he be brought in as a formal part of the organization? I've said I don't think so. It's just a weird dynamic to go from being somebody's boss to go to somebody's employee. I don't know. It's just weird. I think Frank himself talked about that on Cilio's show, because Cilio's close with Frank.
Yeah.
I think he talked about that exact thing. It's just weird. So I don't know, but he's always like Nick talks to Frank Reich all the time. Believe me, he's bouncing all this stuff off Frank Reich the whole time. So
he's only a phone call away. Just because he doesn't work in the Eagles doesn't mean they don't have conversations. Here's our boy Martin. What's up, Martin? He says, he says, when I brought up Slay and the Eagles reunion yesterday in my super chat, I was given a classic Zander chuckle and a classic J-Mac triple no.
Well, that was from the standpoint of, and by all means, spike the football. That was the point of he's not free yet. And when the Steelers cut him, which I got to the point, I wasn't paying attention. I didn't know he was a healthy scratch. So it was sort of like the Adam Thielen situation, which this has become a thing now in the NFL where veteran guys are not working out and they ask to be released. And it's sort of like the NBA buyout market, which I don't like, by the way. But if it's becoming a thing, and it seems to be becoming a thing, and the Steelers released them, so now it's a thing. Now, I do think Detroit will claim him. That's just a hunch because they put Terrion Arnold on injured reserve. So he's likely done for the season. And they have so many corner issues, and they're ahead of um, the Eagles on the waiver wire right now. And Slay loves Detroit because of what they did for him early in his career. And those are the two spots I think he would like to finish. But if I were the Eagles and they already tried to get Jair Alexander and that didn't work out, so what does that tell you? Well, that tells you that they're not happy with the Dory Jackson and Kaylee Ringo and Jacorian Bennett. So now that he's available, if you can get him, why not? I don't know if it's going to work, but that was my no, because he wasn't available yesterday. Now he's available.
He says, no, can I spike the football? LOL. All respect. Love the show. Keep up the great work. And Martine, thank you, brother. I think he followed up with one more. So he says, regarding Detroit's waiver claim on Slay, they play a lot of man coverage there. I would think that is not a good fit at this point in Slay's career. Better fit in Philly. Will that stop the trend? I think it's a fair point. I do.
Well, it's funny because earlier in his career, like Slay would only want to play man coverage. Exactly. So that's about Slay's psyche, but certainly he played great in Vic's scheme last year and he didn't play great in Pittsburgh's scheme. So maybe that factors into it. But you have no control over somebody claiming you. That unfortunately, that's part. Once the trade line, normally when you're a vested veteran, you don't have to go on waivers. But after the trade deadline, everybody's got to go on waivers. So there could be a team that claims him just to keep him away from the Eagles. Another NFC contender besides Detroit. That contender that is ahead of the Eagles. Now that wouldn't be. So it wouldn't be the Rams because they're behind the Eagles. It wouldn't be the Bears because they're behind the Eagles. But the Eagles are, I believe, 22nd, so they should be behind the Packers as well. So they wouldn't be an issue. The Seahawks wouldn't be an issue. Does anybody else have a better record than the Eagles right now?
Better record? The Rams, obviously, you mentioned them. Seahawks. I think there's a few 8-4 teams. I guess the Niners are 9-4. Would that be better? I guess that's better, right?
Yeah, they're better.
They're on a bye week.
So even though
we're in the Niners right now, I mean, they're missing all those dudes that are still 9-4. I know they got the weak schedule, but
weak schedule is part of it. But that part of it, they're 22nd. So and the AFC teams aren't going to be as hyper focused on stopping the Eagles, but he's got to get through waivers, and if it gets through waivers or the Eagles can claim them, because it's not. I also checked into the contract, so they're only the way they structured it. Somebody who claims them is only going to have to pay $300-something thousand. So that's very doable. But he's got to get to 22. And then you got to cut somebody, or, probably just Jacorian Bennett will come up with a magic ankle sprain in practice, and they'll put him on injured reserve. But, I'd give it a shot. They can get him. Do you have any loyalty to Adoree Jackson? Maybe the organization promised him. I don't know. A lot of things can factor into it, but just from can he help them? Probably, yeah. I mean, he didn't play well in Pittsburgh, so things move fast. I always say in the NFL, and maybe he's not the same guy, but he played very well last season. But the Eagles were probably right to say, all right, we're going to try to go in a different direction, but it hasn't worked because they haven't found. Keely Ringo didn't seize that spot. Jacorian Bennett hasn't been relevant. And Howie, as I said at the beginning of the show, Howie also likes bringing people back. He's got Brandon back. Marcus Epps, Fred Johnson. Why not another one?
Even knowing that I think Slay would at least help or, be closer. I don't know. I almost don't even want to go back down that road, but I don't know. If it makes a team better, I don't see why not. Here's
Well, he's a
Brian.
good dude too. He's a team
He's a
captain.
great guy. Yeah, I mean, I like Slay. So, are we buying the Pats? They've played one team above 500.
To a certain degree. I mean, they're. I'm not fearful of them. I don't think I'm fearful of anyone in the NFL, including the Eagles. Um, Generally, there are steps to winning a Super Bowl. Like you're not going to do it as a second-year quarterback that hasn't gone through the ringer. Generally, it's happened, obviously, but so I probably think they have another step to go before they'll, truly be a legitimate contender again. But they're having a very good season, and of all the young quarterbacks, Drake May is looking like the best right now. But yeah, I mean that's part of it. The schedule is part of it. Same thing with San Francisco. It's part of it. And once you start winning games, you get some confidence and the snowball starts rolling. But I wouldn't look at the Patriots and say, "Ooh, that's a daunting team. They can't get upset in the playoffs."
Yeah, I think they can. I like the way Drake May climbs that pocket, man. He really steps up into that pocket, delivers the ball. It's fun to watch. Right, good stuff, man. Appreciate you doing it today. All right, Johnny Mac, we got BLG coming up in a little bit here. What is your early feeling on the Chargers game? You could tell Mike didn't feel too confident in it. Where are you on that Charger game?
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers are a good team, not a great team. The quarterback is hurt and coming off surgery, so
we don't have any update on him yet, right?
No, I think he's going to try to play, but it's going to limit him. Aaron Rodgers had a similar. Now Aaron's 42, but he missed a week. So no guarantee. Obviously, if Trey Lance plays, then I think it heavily tilts towards the Eagles. The Eagles are favorites anyway, probably because of the Herbert injury. So people hedging their bets. On paper, the Chargers look like a better team. Again, third-ranked defense, 10th-ranked offense. Eagles have the 25th-ranked defense, the 24th-ranked offense. On paper, they're playing better football. It's a lot of teams than the Eagles. But I'm leaning towards the Eagles because of the situation with their offensive line and the quarterback is injured. I'm leaning towards the Eagles early in the week, but it's certainly not something I feel comfortable with because of the way the Eagles are playing.
Yeah, fair enough there. Boy, if they play Trey Lance, the Eagles
then I'm leaning heavily Eagles.
Yeah. They better handle business there because if you lose to the Trey Lance-led Chargers, one thing to lose to the Herbert-led Chargers at 8-4. You lose to the freaking Trey Lance-led Chargers, we got big problems in Eagle Land, but I don't know if that'll happen. So we'll see what ends up coming up from that game. Looking forward to talking to Brandon Lee Gowton here in a couple of minutes. Obviously, a lot of talk, right now around Eagle Land, and we'll see if they're able to kind of get this thing on the rails. John, the interesting part about it is, and you always point this out, the sky's always falling. It's starting to feel like it actually is falling a little bit. I don't even think it's a fan thing.
I think some of the, and I not that Vegas knows everything, and it's not even Vegas anymore with all the ability to bet, but I think the fact that they're favored tells you something. The fact that they're still number 2 in the Super Bowl odds, and what that tells you is that everybody else stinks.
Yes, so true.
By no means am I saying the Eagles are playing well, but boy, do you sit there and say you just saw Chicago and you can say, well, they dominated that, and they did. But boy, I'm telling you right now, if that matches up and they have to go to Chicago for a playoff game, I'm picking the Eagles.
Well, remember they started 4-0. They're 4-4 since then.
I know. It's more about
like you point out all the teams not playing good, and I'm like, it almost feels like the Eagles are playing worse than those teams.
Well, they're an ugly, unaesthetic team. They've always been that way. So to me, the ugly way they play is sort of built into the way they play.
Yeah, but they were ugly when they were successful the way they played. Now they're ugly and they're unsuccessful in the way they're playing. So it's like even
But they're
worse.
not that unsuccessful. They're the third seed in the NFC.
Oh, well, from a win-loss standpoint,
Yeah.
I was speaking more about the offense is very unsuccessful, I would say. They're pretty bottom of the league, and they're
yeah.
Well, by the way, what the hell? What is success rate? Is that just like the way the play is designed, whether you accomplish it or not? I don't know. I don't know how to define that. Shield keeps putting out these stats, and apparently it's a big thing. Like offensive success rate is lowest it's been in 20 plus years. I don't know what
it's
Jeff asked me that on Monday. He's like, because
I'm telling you,
yeah, bro.
The success rate is, and I'm giving you the exact definition. That's what the proportion of successful outcomes to total attempts. So, in other words, no offense to Shield, a tremendous guy. I would not use it. I don't use it. Now, EPA per play is something I think is more valuable.
Yeah, right.
And it's not perfect. There's nothing's perfect in the NFL from a statistics standpoint. I don't think it's a statistical game, but I do think of all the advanced stats, the one that holds up the most under scrutiny is EPA. And that's the one I think that holds more weight among people in the industry. By that, I don't mean media people. I mean football people. Of all the advanced stats, I think that's the one. And Ben Johnson's even talked about it, by the way. And specifically about the passing game, that in his mind, EPA per pass is a clear indicator of success, even more than turnovers. He mentioned that back at the league meetings, which kind of wowed some people. So I think that's the one that holds the most weight. And the Eagles are not good. They're not. They're down. Last time I checked, and I didn't check after the Bears game, they were down 144% in the running game. They were down 37% in the passing game, and they were down 88% overall. So it's not good.
No,
but I do think the running game is the bigger issue.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I'm in the minority there, I think, but I think it's a bigger issue.
Well, the passing game has just been a bigger issue for a longer period of time. So I think
people, but that's always been an issue.
Right. That's always
in my
been
mind.
Yeah.